Okay. Good evening, everybody. So tonight it's Monday night again, and obviously you guys know that on Mondays we do a series called Real Women, Real Stories. But this month of September, we're doing Real Women, Real Stories with women dealing with PCOS. Our IVF journey. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes, obviously, for Instagram to let everyone know that we're here. Vita, hey, girl. Thanks for joining. So tonight we're talking to Tendai. If you guys have watched Tendai a while ago, we did a live with Tendai on Facebook a while ago, and she's absolutely awesome. She also likes to advocate for women that's dealing with PCOS and with reproductive problems, sorry. So yeah, I'm excited to have Tendai tonight. And you know, this is tonight's talk is sponsored by Pcositol. They've got a great product. Sorry, it's actually sponsored by Dalfrin Pharmaceuticals, and they've got a great product called Pcositol that is for women with PCOS. So yeah, we're talking to Tendai, as I was saying, and Tendai is actually a pharmacist, and she advocates for women dealing with PCOS and reproductive problems as well. So thank you everybody for joining us. I'm going to invite you, Tendai. If you give me just a couple of minutes, and then, or Tendai, if you can just send me, there we go, and just give it a couple of minutes for her to join us. And again, I've got my tea on, guys. Hey, Tendai.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I haven't done lives in a long time, so it's like
Yeah.
it's interesting to be back.
Yeah, I'm so glad I could do this with you. I was just telling everybody we did a live quite a while ago, and I
Yeah.
remember that was still in the beginning stages when I was still
Hmm.
finding my feet with everything, and my connection went to something, and you just carried on. You were like you just carried on with the talk. I was like, wow, this girl is great. I should have her again. So I'm so glad I can do this with you because I know you were just like you just winged it that day. And I was like, so great. And it's awesome talking to you. And the nice thing about Tendai actually also deals with PCOS herself, but
Yeah.
she's a pharmacist as well. And you're always advocating for women dealing with PCOS and reproductive
Hmm.
problems. And if any of you do follow her, you will see that on her status, she always has these exercise videos. And I always say to her, and so I've got her on WhatsApp as well, and I always like, okay, she can get up and she can do it, I can do it too. And then I'm like,
That's good.
no, maybe tomorrow. I'm like, no, this girl is crazy. Let me put that phone down. This girl is crazy. It's too early for this. But well done, because you were looking great. I was actually like seeing the transformation in your body and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you are so brave. So
Thank
yeah, I'm
you.
too much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna hand it over to you. Yeah,
Thank
so tell
you.
us about everything. Yeah, and tell everyone who you are and what it is that you do.
Wow, that's always a very difficult question for me to answer. But hi, guys. My name is Tendai, and I am a girl, just a regular girl. And I have PCOS because that's what we're talking about. And I am a pharmacist too. I am a reproductive health consultant. Well, they don't have that title yet in South Africa, but I do consult for reproductive health. So I think I will give myself the title. And well, my journey began 2 years ago when I got so sick and I didn't know what it was. Actually, it began years ago when I was 16 and I missed my period for like 6 months. Then the following year, I missed my period for 8 months, and then it kind of became a thing. So in the beginning, the doctors I went to were like, it's so normal. People miss their period. It doesn't matter. And I come from a family of big people. So gaining weight was like, yes, she's joining the rest of the crew. So when I started gaining weight, it meant nothing to anyone. It was like the most normal thing because, you know, I was looking like the rest of the team. So as time went on, I think the symptoms got worse, but I got used to them. And I also had severe acne. I think if I move close, you'll see I still struggle with acne. I try to cover that up. I don't always show my face. So I still struggled with acne, but I never had like extra facial hair or anything. So when I would go to a gynae or any other doctor for that matter, the issue was always, oh, you know what? It's normal. People miss their period. Maybe you should try to have babies by 28 because by that time will help you have a baby because maybe you like I had so many crazy explanations from different doctors. Some doctors were like, maybe you just have that long cycle. And yeah, so I got used to it. And I would get into a gynae's office, like every time I changed a doctor or gynae, moved provinces or whatever, I'd get into the doctor's office. I'm like, yes, so you're gonna check for my TSH, my LH, you know that excitement when you're in
Yeah.
the medical field, you feel like you know everything. So I'd get there and I'll be like, I know you're going to check for this, but it's going to come back normal. And you check for that, everything is going to come back
Yeah.
normal. So I don't, yeah, like whatever. You're going to tell me it's normal. So I think 2017, I saw that was like my seventh or eighth gynae. And my gynae said, your results came back normal. So I thought, you know what? Maybe these guys are right. I I'm normal. It's a cycle. It's
Yeah.
then I mean I went on the pill for the acne, then the acne cleared and my life was good.
Yeah.
And then 2019 I got very sick. I fell in the bathroom at work because of this lower abdominal pain and I didn't know what it was. And at the hospital, that's when the I think what are they called? The ER doctor said, I think we need a gynae consult. And then he suggested if I wanted to go back to my gynae or a new gynae, but I thought, hey, let's try someone new. I got a
Yeah.
new gynae. So I remember sitting across the table from her and I say to her, I know you're gonna check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And when you check all of that, you're going to tell me that I'm normal. So let's get on with it. You'll put me back on the pill. I know the whole ordeal. And she said, wait a minute, like don't judge me. Let me
Mm.
kind of, look at what's going on and I will tell you what's going on. So she checked and it was different. So the next thing I got a call. Because guys, you know this, right? When you go to the doctors and everything's fine, you never get a call or an explanation of your results. So I thought I'm
Yeah.
used to it. And then I got a call from our office and they're like, most of the results came back normal, but we found high levels of testosterone. But it's shocking because you don't have any hirsutism, which is that extra facial
Yeah.
hair. So
Yeah.
can I forward you to a gynae? No, not gynae, endocrinologist. And I was like, oh, cool, let's do that. Endocrinologist, okay. So when I got to the endocrinologist, he did his own tests and just went through everything plus the physical examination. And to my horror, I had PCOS and insulin resistance. And that I think it was what was so devastating for me was that it took 15 years to get that diagnosis.
Oh.
15 years and 9 doctors later, a mixture of GPs and gynaes to get that diagnosis. So I struggled in the beginning. So my endocrinologist, like my numbers were bad. My cholesterol was off the charts, the weight, I was used to it, but the scale was against me. And and like, yeah, so the endocrinologist said to me, listen, let's try to get you to a healthy weight because if you lose 5 to 10% of your weight,
Yeah.
you actually improve your body's function. He was like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna prematurely put you on cholesterol medicine, but I am gonna say if you work out and we check you out in 6 months, if you've improved in like 6 months or so, then I know whatever you're doing is working. So that's when I started working out. I had never worked out my whole life. In high school, um, I'm asthmatic, so in high school, I always used to, beginning of the term, I'd go to the doctor, get a letter that said I was asthmatic and could not participate in any sport because it would aggravate the asthma. So,
Yeah.
the,
Lucky
so
girl.
I did nothing. I like we called it PE class. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's gym. So I'm in
Yeah.
PE. I was just one of those girls sitting by the benches cheering on everyone else. So
Mm.
I had to learn something different. I had to start going through the right type of diet for me. And I think it was very difficult because if you go online right now and you talk about PCOS diet, it seems
Yeah.
like for every approach, it seems like a one size fits all, but it's not because everybody's different and everyone reacts to different foods differently. So then it was so confusing because I tried every diet we have there. I tried keto, I tried banting, I tried every single thing, and I got to a point where I realized that my body was going to respond differently to different things. So I had to go with what went with my body. That's not to say keto and banting and all the other diets don't work. I think as a person with PCOS, you need to speak with a dietitian if you have the opportunity to have one, and you need to, with your dietitian, you need to come up with something that will work for you, because some
Yeah.
people, banting is going to work for them, keto is going to work for them, all the other names are going to work for them, a low carb diet will work for them. But once you discover what works for you, and together with exercise, once you discover the type of exercise that works for you and your body, I think you'd have found the gold.
Yeah. I have to mention that the thing that was the saddest for me to hear what you mentioned is what you said was that it took you 9 doctors, did I say? Did you say?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, and 15 years to actually be diagnosed. And I think that is the problem with a lot of women is that we don't get diagnosed. And like I mentioned a while ago, is that
Mm,
I went to a doctor recently, a gynae, about 3 years ago or something, and she told
mm,
me, you don't have PCOS. And I looked at her, I was like, what do you mean I don't have PCOS? I know I've got PCOS. I've got all the other symptoms. Oh, but no, we don't see any um the
the cysts in the
the
ovaries.
cysts. I don't see the cysts, you
Yeah.
know. But I mean, it doesn't. It was just for that, maybe for that period that there wasn't any cysts. But I know always my ovaries were always. I always remember the doctor saying, "There's your string of pills. There's your
Yeah.
string of pills," and then you would actually
Yeah.
see it, and it showed because I knew
Yeah.
exactly what it looked like already.
Yeah.
And that is this. That's the sad part, because women would go to the doctor and say, "Oh, I'm not. I'm starting to fall pregnant, and I'm missing my periods for months at a time.
Mhm.
What could be wrong with me?" And the doctor won't actually tell them, look, you've got PCOS, or they won't do the necessary checks. And I think the question to ask here is, what do you do when, I mean, from your side, what do
Mhm.
you do to make sure that the doctor actually gives you a proper, or would you go to make sure that the doctor gives you the correct um, diagnosis? So if you have PCOS, you can actually treat it, you
Yeah.
know? I think
Mm.
that is the problem. And maybe that's why we also do the talks, to try and educate women to know what to look out for and
What
what
to
to,
look out for. So this is
yeah.
the most interesting thing. I was speaking at the PCOS Awareness conference.
Yes.
So I attended some of the like the other speakers, and there was this renowned obs and gynae in America who was explaining like amazing things. And I was thinking, with everything she spoke about PCOS, I don't understand why women are not getting diagnosed, because she mentioned that the Rotterdam criteria, which was
Yeah.
agreed upon in 2003, which talks about these three hallmarks of PCOS, with the first one being irregular periods or
Yeah.
absent periods, which would be explained as having a cycle that's less than 21 days. So every 21 days you go on your period, or a cycle that's above 35 days. So this
Yeah.
would end up giving you less than 8 cycles in a year, right? So that's one. Then the second one is the high testosterone, which is like high androgen. This is seen in two ways. So the first one, they have to take your bloods and test it. So that's the serum testosterone. They have to check that. And then the second thing is the physical symptoms, which would be the hirsutism, which is the male pattern beards, the male
Yes. Yes.
pattern balding for some women, those bald patches that we get from nowhere. And sometimes you get the beard right here by your neck and extra chest hair like a man. And sometimes you've got that strip on your
Yes.
belly of hair, and also the acne. So seeing that, a doctor should be able to think, hey, this is something. And then the
Yeah.
third one is the polycystic ovaries. So just to clarify, having a cyst or a number of cysts on your ovaries is not polycystic ovaries, because
Yeah.
polycystic ovaries is a number about 12 to 25 cysts on a certain parts of your ovaries, around in your ovaries. So it's not
Yeah.
just that, because sometimes I speak with women, they're like, oh yeah, the doctor told me I had cysts. Honey, just having cysts is not PCOS. So there's a
Yeah. Yeah.
difference between an ovary with cysts and a polycystic ovary. So
Yeah.
now this Rotterdam criteria was then moved on into 2006. 2006, there was another criteria agreed upon that still went on with the Rotterdam criteria, because 2 out of 3 of these symptoms warrants a PCOS diagnosis. So you don't have to have polycystic ovaries to have PCOS. So
Yeah.
now in 2018, they have the latest PCOS guidelines and treatment that were agreed upon by probably, it was some world conference that had all the clinicians, the OBs, the OBGYNs, the endocrinologists. They came up and they agreed to take up the Rotterdam criteria as the official diagnosis for PCOS. So now, what confuses me is that why are gynaes just looking for the polycystic ovaries when, according
Yeah.
to the international guidelines, the issue is that you have 2 out of 3 of the symptoms that we spoke about. Number one being the irregular or absent periods. Number two being the high testosterone seen in the hirsutism and acne. Number three being the polycystic ovaries. And what you also find is there are 4 phenotypes. Sorry, guys, I'm so excited about, about this, because it's like new information I learned on Saturday. So it's like four
Awesome.
phenotypes, right? So of these 4 phenotypes, what could happen is you've got the first 2 symptoms, which would be the no, no, actually the type A, you've got all 3. You've got the irregular periods, you've got the high testosterone, and you've got the polycystic ovaries. That's number 1. And then type 2, you've got irregular periods, high testosterone, but you don't have polycystic ovaries. And then
Yeah.
just like that, where you have the other 2 but nothing. And it can happen that you can get irregular periods, polycystic ovaries, and not a problem with testosterone. So these are the phenotypes that are actually being used in the medical field to diagnose women. So I don't get why, if our doctors and all the other clinicians have this kind of information, why are women going for 8 years with no diagnosis? Because
Yeah.
surely, even if you don't have the polycystic ovaries at that point, because the polycystic ovaries are not always permanent. They,
Yeah.
at times the cysts are small, at times they're not there. So at times
Yeah.
your ovaries are big, at times they're not. But if the other symptoms are there, then I mean the PCOS is there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a quick thing. Have you ever, like, walked in a mall or something and you saw somebody and and you maybe saw this extra facial hairs on them and all the acne and the weight, and you look at them and you think to yourself, I wonder if that girl actually knows that she might have PCOS.
My
And I wonder,
goodness.
am I right? Or
It
like you're standing
happens.
at the store and you
It
see
happens.
somebody and like, I
It
wonder if she
happens
knows.
all the
I want to
time.
tell her
It
all the
happens
time.
all the time because even like in the gym at times, I probably see a woman and I'm like, she probably has insulin resistance.
Yeah.
Should I go and talk to her? I'm like, girl,
Yeah.
no, walk
Yeah, you
away.
can't you can't just go and say that
No,
to
you can't
someone.
just go and say that to someone. But
But it
I think
feels like you want to.
I do.
You really
Like
want to.
at some point in my life, I felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders because I wanted everyone, not that I want everyone to have PCOS or fibroids or endometriosis, but I want everyone to know what could be wrong with them and get the
Yeah,
help they need. So I started,
exactly.
yeah, I start speaking to gynaes and stuff, like, get to kind of hear what they think. Are they passionate about reproductive health, or do they just think, um by the way, there's nothing wrong with going on the pill. I just have to say this disclaimer first. So
Mm,
so that people don't think that I'm against the pill. I'm not.
yeah,
I think there are some people who need the pill and some people
yeah,
don't, depending on what you want to treat and what you're looking at. But I hate
yeah,
it when you go to a gynae and you have the symptoms, then you get the diagnosis, and the next thing is, there's nothing we can do for you. You just need to be on the pill and lose weight. That
yeah,
sucks, because if anyone who's like watching has PCOS, you know that just losing weight doesn't just happen. Like, you can
yeah,
work out for 6 months and gain 10 kgs. So
exactly.
yeah, so I really took it on me, and I wanted to save everyone, because I felt like I didn't want people to go through what I had gone through
Yeah,
with PCOS, and without having a diagnosis. Like, it really, really, really sucked for me. And because it sucked for me, I kept I keep wishing I could do more, but sometimes it's hard because PCOS also gets to me, because PCOS causes things like depression, anxiety, mental health problems. And all of those things also affect me. I'm human. So as much as I want to take that weight upon my shoulders, it also affects me in a certain way. That's why I always take a lot of breaks
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
between. Yeah.
Because at times it can get a lot where you have to you're trying to help everybody and trying to educate everybody about PCOS and listening to everyone's stories as well. So
Mm.
it can get a lot for you as well. And I
Yeah.
actually never knew that depression is one of the things. And I think that is something that I really learned now through the last month, to having talks with everybody and having all the professionals actually talking to us and telling us about more about PCOS. That is
Mm.
definitely one of the things that I learned, is the depression part of it, which I really,
Yeah.
really never knew.
And
So yeah,
anxiety. So some women
anxiety.
get depression and others struggle with anxiety. So I struggle with anxiety. Like, if I just think it's not going to work out, or it's just going so bad, anxiety is just, I'm like the queen of anxiety.
I got really bad anxiety, and I only found it out a while ago, when
Uh-huh.
every time I go and speak to a client, and I realized I started sweating and being all anxious and
Yeah.
everything, and realized I've actually got anxiety. But I mean, these are all things you don't know. You don't realize it's all got to do with PCOS.
Yeah.
The other thing about PCOS is that you don't realize is that some women, when they're diagnosed with it, they don't have the correct. Why I'm saying educating them about PCOS is so important is, uh, it's almost a death, not a death sentence, but because they don't understand it, they think, okay,
Mm.
that's the end of me. There's nothing I can
Mm.
do about it. There's no hope for me. I'm just gonna just accept that I'm gonna get fat now and I can't have kids. That's the main thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
Um,
And
so
you know
that
the yeah. So the
Okay.
interesting thing for me was learning a lot more about the different phenotypes of PCOS and knowing how they can affect your fertility. So, having PCOS in the four different phenotypes, or however many phenotypes they are, is what's different. So, somebody asked what causes irregular periods. So, PCOS messes up with your hormones. So, we've got this hormone called, like our normal menstrual cycle, we have in the beginning a hormone called follicle stimulating hormone, which acts in the first half of your cycle because it
Yeah.
helps in preparing your follicle and your egg that turns into your egg that on day 14, if we're talking about a 28-day cycle, that on day 14, when your egg is released, it's prepared, it's ready, it can be fertilized. But
Mm.
then in comes, like on day 14, there's that surge of LH, right, which is the
Yeah.
luteinizing hormone. So LH is then the one that works together with progesterone, and there's a hormone called progesterone that then helps, if your egg is fertilized, then helps to support the pregnancy. Right. So
Yeah.
that's like the normal cycle. That's how it goes. And if your egg that's released is not fertilized, that's when your period comes. So what then happens with women with PCOS is the ratio of FSH, which is the follicle stimulating hormone, and the ratio of LH, which is the luteinizing hormone, is not the same, is not in the proper ratio that it should be. You will find women with PCOS have high LH. If any of you ladies here have ever bought an ovulation test, it always says, like, if you read, they're like, if you have, like, if you read the package insert, it always says, if you've got PCOS, contact your doctor before you use this ovulation test. And that's because your luteinizing hormone is always higher than the FSH. So that surge that happens on ovulation never happens for you when you've got PCOS
Oh.
and ovulate, what you call it, ovary dysfunction. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where the problem is. So that's the hormonal imbalance part. So
Oh.
having that imbalance of hormones and having the LH just being above the FSH, that's what causes you not to get your period all the time. So in a lot of cases, that means you don't get to ovulate. But there are some women with PCOS who have that balance of the FSH and LH going well, such that they do ovulate, they get their period on time. However, they have a problem of high testosterone, so they get the hirsutism and the extra facial hair, and they've got the polycystic ovaries. So you see,
Mm.
that's now a different phenotype. So
Yeah.
now, for a woman who ovulates like that every month and has, her issue is the polycystic ovaries and the and the testosterone, most of the times you find the doctors, then that's why I'm saying the approaches are different, because then for that woman the approach would be different from the woman with an ovulatory dysfunction, because this woman
Yeah.
already has her ovulation. Her problem is we just need to get that testosterone down and trying to reduce the size of the ovaries. So then the approach is definitely have to be different. So you'll find that's how infertility then affects women differently. Some women will say to you, but I have PCOS and I don't struggle with weight gain. I just struggle with irregular periods and the polycystic ovaries. So you
Mm.
find they don't struggle with the testosterone, but it's just the irregular periods and the problem with the ovaries. So that is again another different type that will need a different approach. So it's not, while PCOS is a leading cause for infertility, but it doesn't mean that because you've got PCOS, you're automatically suffering with infertility.
Oh. Okay. Oh, that's that's a lot. You have said quite a lot. Thank you very much, Tendai. No, no, it's good. It's not bad at all. Absolutely not bad at all. Because I saw a message come through. One of the comments was that please save this. because they're learning so much. Because I'm learning, I'm watching you, but I'm like taking in everything you're saying. It was so good. Well done. Um, in closing, I just like, is there anything what tips would you give somebody when it comes to the food? I know, like I said, different things work for different people. But
Yeah.
on your side, what tips would you give somebody dealing with PCOS that's trying to help regulate their period, that's dealing with infertility? What would you suggest when it comes to exercising, moderately, heavy type of food you eat, what to avoid? Please give us a tip or two.
Okay, so the general of everything is it's all about finding a balance. So a balanced diet, right? So your balanced diet must always include fruit and veggies. Like, be intentional about eating your veggies. Like, on a weird day, make sure you, like, there's this awesome carrot salad recipe I never knew I would love raw carrots like that, but there's an awesome carrot, like things like that, making sure you have your carrots because they contain vitamin A, which is so good for you, making
Yeah,
sure you become friends with veggies like broccoli and spinach and kale, because those dark leafy green vegetables are also high in magnesium, and they're high in zinc. And these are so good for us when you've got PCOS. That is why you find um, magnesium is part of like the supplements that are recommended for PCOS. Zinc is part of the supplements that are recommended for PCOS. So making sure you get some of those veggies in, because I really think there's nothing that beats the natural form of everything.
yeah,
So not to overwhelm yourself, because all of this information is so overwhelming. And especially if you're coming from a place where you were always that person who eats too much, like me, you can't just stop immediately, but
yeah,
learning to find that balance, to making sure you develop a very healthy relationship with your fruits and veggies, and just being intentional, adding, making sure you also drink a lot of water, because it does help with your skin. I mean, it takes years to get that right, but it does help with your skin. And when it comes to exercise, I think as long as you manage to do at least 30 minutes a day for 5 days a week. So this 30 minutes a day could just be taking a 30-minute walk, and you'll realize as you get stronger, you want to do more anyway.
yeah,
So whether you're going to start at the gym, or you're just going to start just by walking, or even home workout videos, I think those are pretty cool. And just
yeah,
making sure you move, because you find with our health and with PCOS not only affecting the metabolic side, but it also affects our mental health. So things like exercise help us to release that cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Things like that, they help to, I'm not saying they're the cure, but they help with the management of things like depression, anxiety, because you find like a release.
yeah,
Then in terms of supplements, I am a big believer in the inositols. So they're like a lot of different products, and Pcositol, for example, makes it so easy, because Pcositol already contains the magnesium, it contains the zinc, it contains a whole lot of other minerals that you wouldn't need to get from elsewhere. So it just makes it so easy for you. But remember, always speak with your doctor about the inositols, because like I was explaining to you, the different phenotypes that are there, you will require, in the end, you will require different things. But I think just for basic management, before we even get into the medicine, that for
yeah.
me has been pure gold. I had my inositols, the magnesium, the zinc, the food, the diet. It has just been absolutely amazing. It's a journey with ups and downs, because it takes a bit of time for you to know your body and to know what
Yes.
works for you. But that for me is the advice I would give to anyone. Make sure
Yes.
these five are like your gold for PCOS.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so very much, Tendai. Always great talking to you. And I'm sure that there's so many people. We are going to save it. It will be on our YouTube channel. You can check it out. Subscribe to YouTube so you'll get a little notification every time we post a new video. But all these videos are on our YouTube channel. It's
Mm.
also posted to Facebook as well and saved on our IGTV. So thank you again for
Thank
joining us for the
you.
month of PCOS to try and create awareness and educate women on
Mm.
PCOS. And there is things that we can do to,
Mm.
help us with PCOS or manage our PCOS better. Yeah, so thank you very much
Thank
and
you,
have a good
Mary.
evening further.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You
Linda.
too.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.